Apologies for the lack of content over the past few days as I've been traveling to see family and won't be back home until the day before the draft, which, yeah, maybe not the best time to travel at one of the busiest times of the year in the NBA world, but hey, family over everything. But in any event, I've been following along with everything going on around the league, all the trade rumors coming about, of course the blockbuster deal of Kevin Durant getting moved to the Houston Rockets, which I'll have some kind of reaction to on my NBA channel in the coming days. But even aside from that, all the mock trades coming from various media outlets, and while I don't think there is any credibility to some of these trade rumors, I did find a few mock trades, potential draft night trades that I thought were interesting. And so in this video, I wanted to react to 3 mock trades in particular that I've been seeing making their rounds on Twitter, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts on these as well. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Now, of course, the most active night in the league when it comes to trades outside of the day of the NBA trade deadline is on NBA draft night, which is happening this Wednesday. And given everything that is going on around the league, the expectation is that this is going to be one of the most active off seasons in terms of player movement. You would expect, or hope anyway, that the Bulls would be a part of some of the player movement. Now, I had initially started putting together a reaction to the 3-team trade I saw where the Bulls were actually involved in a Kevin Durant mock deal, where the Bulls actually got Jalen Green and the number 10 pick instead of that getting shipped over to the Suns, and the Bulls sending out Vucevic and Lonzo Ball to Phoenix. Now, here's the thing. I am not a Jalen Green fan, I'm not even in the slightest, but getting that first round pick, the number 10 pick, while also keeping their own pick and not having to give up any of their young core definitely sounds intriguing. But that's now moot, of course, given the recent trade. But I did see this one that was circling over the last couple of days on Twitter. This was actually from a Blazers account called Blazers Lead, where they would be sending the Bulls DeAndre Ayton and the number 11 pick in this year's draft, while the Bulls would ship off Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, and Portland's own first-round pick. That dreaded first-round pick the Bulls got in the Larry Markkinen sign-and-trade deal that is lottery protected and is still yet to convey. Now, I reacted briefly to this one on Twitter, but my main question here is, why on earth would the Blazers do this? Because initially I thought, all right, they're getting some salary relief for Ayton's contract because I thought he actually still had 2 more years left on his deal. But then when I looked into it further, I realized he's on an expiring contract. So you're exchanging 1 expiring contract for 2 in Huerter and Zach Collins, and you're giving up a lottery pick just to get your own first-round pick back. Like, I get that there is value in having control of all of your picks because it hinders you from trading future first when you already have a traded first that may or may not convey. And because you don't know when it's going to convey, and because of the Stepien rule and not being able to trade consecutive first-round picks in the NBA, the Blazers can't trade near-term future first as a result of it. But is having control of all your future firsts really worth giving up the 11th pick? Because while you can say, well, they're moving on from Ayton, this allows them to really prioritize and develop Donovan Clingan, you'd have to think there would be better offers or a better way to move off of the expiring contract of DeAndre Ayton, who isn't a bad player, by the way. He just hasn't lived up to the expectation of being the number 1 overall pick. But yeah, I just don't see why the Blazers would do this. I love this trade for the Bulls. And if you get an offer like that, you jump on it. Getting 2 lottery picks in this year's draft is key for what the Bulls are trying to build out in this young core for the future. And even Ayton, still a young player, but a young player with experience. Even deep playoff experience, a center who is actually a lob threat and can somewhat protect the rim, at least better than Vucevic anyway, but also low risk as it's an expiring contract, and if it doesn't work out, you don't have to re-sign him and you ended up getting a lottery pick out of the deal. Yeah, sign me up. And then this was actually a mock trade coming from ESPN where the Bulls would receive RJ Barrett from the Raptors, while the Raptors would receive Patrick Williams, Javon Carter, and the number 12 pick. Yeah, I'm passing on this one, and here's why. Look, Barrett is a nice player. And yes, there is value of getting off of Pat's contract at this point, as I think we all know he's never going to be that guy. But you can't give up the number 12 pick for a guy who is 25 years old and isn't going to probably move the needle for you. Like, the Bulls need to be taking advantage of all the cracks they can get at drafting a star-level player. We know what RJ Barrett is. A good player, but he's not going to be an all-star. And he's not going to take your team anywhere, and he still has 2 more years left on his contract, which isn't that favorable of a deal, by the way, where he's going to be making $27 and $29 million respectively over the next 2 years. Like, even though I've been down and out on Patrick Williams, this isn't the deal that you make to try to get off his contract where you're giving away your 12th pick. The Bulls need to use that pick in this year's draft with some of the exciting prospects that are slated to go in that range in the coming week. And then I saw this one that had been making some rounds as well. Of course, we've got to include a Vucevic trade, right? Where the Warriors in this one will receive 2 second-round picks from the Bulls along with Vucevic, while the Bulls would get Buddy Hield and Moses Moody. You know, surprisingly, I'm not that opposed to this trade. And I'm sure a lot of Bulls fans are going to be opposed to it. Like, I'm not for trading away draft capital, even if it is second round picks when you're embarking on a rebuild, especially as second round picks are usually good sweeteners in any trade deal. And while Buddy Hield wouldn't fit the long-term plan for the Bulls at his age, he's still a lights-out shooter that absolutely would fit the Bulls' style of basketball that they're trying to play. He's not a smart player and shouldn't have the ball in his hands, but if he knows his role and just plays off the ball in the catch and shoot, then yeah, there could be some value there. And yes, I think most people's hesitancy is the fact that he still has 3 more years left on his contract, with year 3 being a player option, but it's just under $10 million per year. It's below the mid-level exception, a very tradable contract, and in fact, a contract that could be crucial in making the money work in a given deal a salary filler. So I'm not fussed about taking on Hield's contract. And then Moses Moody, I mean, this is a player that is going to fit the mold of what 8K is looking for. Young player, but a young player with experience, has played on a championship team, could have some upside still, but just hasn't been fully utilized or prioritized on Warriors team that is trying to compete for championships. I personally don't see Moody becoming anything special, but he could be a serviceable role player that would fit this new timeline, if we're going to call it that. And like Buddy Hield, I'm not as concerned about Moody's contract. 3-year deal, it's around the mid-level exception, where he's going to be making $11.5 million, $12.5 million, and $13.4 million respectively. At his age, that's also a tradable contract if you need to get out of it, but there's also the benefit for some upside with this kid. I'm not saying I like the trade, because is it worth giving up a couple seconds for Moses Moody and Buddy Hield? Maybe. Should the Bulls expect to get something more value in return for Vucevic? Probably not, even though I'm sure the Bulls themselves are still asking for a first-round pick for Vuce. But anyway, I'm sure there are going to be plenty of more mock trades leading up to the days and hours before the draft. To me, a lot of this is interesting to talk about, but I want to see the actual moves happen before I'm going to get excited about anything. Anyway, let me know what your guys' thoughts were on some of these mock trades. Let me know in the comments. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and as always, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.